So welcome back again today, guys. I was asked a couple questions, so I think I'm probably going to go ahead and answer them because I've been asked a lot of questions. I guess I don't want to go too deep with a whole bunch of things, but I've been asked one question that I guess is sort of okay to answer. But I was asked, what is my favorite accent amongst black people around the whole world? Not just in one country, but around the whole world. Now, I haven't heard every black person in the whole world in their accent, but I guess I can go ahead and share and I guess try to say what I like about the accent, even though some people might not think it's true. This is my perception. So I guess I'll get right into it and talk about what I like the most or what I feel like is the most attractive to me. Now, first of all, like you know, I'm African American. So since I'm African American, in America, let's talk about in America for a second. In America, I really do love, obviously, the African American, let's not say accent, but dialect mixed with the American accent, I guess you could say, compared to what region that one person's from compared to another person's from. I do like more. Unfortunately, the accent that I haven't got around to really liking that much, that I don't hate, but it's not my favorite accent, is the Southern accent. I don't know, I'm just more attracted to an African American girl, if I was to date one that is from the North. I really love like the Minnesota accent, like around the Minnesota, Chicago accent. Even though some African Americans in Chicago speak, I feel like a little country, and I don't understand why, but I don't know if it's because St. Louis is right there, even though that's considered the Midwest, but to me, Missouri back in the day was always the South, so it's still something for me hard to swallow, but I like a Chicago girl like accent, when a girl's Chicago or Minnesota or like Milwaukee, I love that accent, when it sounds really northern and sort of like Canadian. And then I also love the East Coast accent in other parts of the Midwest that, speak just, I guess a lot of people in America say we don't have accents, but I feel like we have an accent. It's just depending on where you're from and, what you know about and how much you pay attention and all this kind of stuff. But I think my favorite accent is the Midwest and the East Coast, especially East Coast. I love an East Coast girl from Pittsburgh or like from, where else, accent, the East Coast, I got a lot of homeboys too, guys that are from Philadelphia, Philly. Philly's in the building, right? And NYC, what I'm saying? And I them as my homeboys, and I just love the whole East Coast and Midwest vibe as far as like hip hop and the culture, and that's just how I grew up. So I'm from up north, so I'm just used to those things. But so that's in America. Not that I hate Southern girls. Actually, I like Southern girls. I didn't used to like Southern girls that much because I didn't necessarily like the accent, but I do now. But when I was younger, I really was never really attracted to like a Southern accent. Nothing wrong with it, but I just never was attracted to it. And now the West Coast accent is so funny because back in the day, I've heard people like, call different people like down south, like obviously like Bammers or, people on the West Coast. I've heard people call them, and I'm not saying this is what I call them, but I'm saying I heard people call them like Little Louisiana and stuff like that. Out in Cali because, maybe the history of like African Americans migrating from the South and everywhere else in America and going over to the West Coast, and maybe more so migrated through like Texas and the Southwest from the South, and they just moved over that way. I'm not saying that that's how you guys sound. I'm just saying that this is what I've heard from certain people and just stereotypes or whatever. But a West Coast black girl, I really like the way a West Coast African American girl sounds too as well. I know there's still different accents amongst that region, whether it be like Northeast West Coast or like Southern West Coast. But I really like that, and I know the West Coast has that big stereotype. Well, it's not stereotype, it's true, but a lot of girls out there, more so not black girls, but girls from other races, speak like, oh my God, yes, like, yeah, Becky, oh my God, like that. And I've actually met one African American girl from Cali that was from the suburbs that did talk like that. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but I did meet that, and I wasn't really too attracted to that. But, and then, obviously West Coast guys, they have a certain way they talk, whether it be from the, southern part of California all the way up to the Bay Area and then Seattle. I really, I feel like I can tell the difference between like the Bay Area and Southern California, so Northern California, Southern California, the way they talk, I feel is similar, but it's a little bit different. It's almost like the difference between like Boston and NYC and Philly, what I'm saying, if you understand that, or like DC. So for my African Americans, I guess who wins and what region wins to me is the Midwest and the East Coast. Those are the two accents that I like the most, from any of my homeboys to and my friends and my brothers, all the way to, if I was to date a girl or girls that I've dated in the past. Now, outside of America, I guess, and this is sort of bad, I guess we're gonna have to ball this all up, but outside of America, I've been to a couple countries, and I love one of the accents that I love the most is the obviously Caribbean accent, Jamaican accent especially. I love the Bahamas too, but Jamaicans and like more so Jamaican accent, and maybe like Trinidad and Tobago accent. Those are the two that I think I love the most. I haven't been to like Barbados and a couple of, so I can't really speak on those, but as far as like, I guess what the stereotypical Caribbean accent is like Jamaican accent. And a lot of people think that the Jamaican accent is the whole accent for all of the Caribbeans, and that's not true. Even I used to be like that. I'm African American, but I used to think that because that's all I knew about was the Bahamas and Jamaica, and I never had went to Bahamas. Only seen commercials about it, obviously tourist attractions, and I went to Jamaica and I always heard reggae, and I maybe even all the people that's doing reggae were probably not even from Jamaica when I was growing up. But I was a kid, and when you're young, you're very impressionable, and you just don't understand things when you get when you get older. So, but I haven't been everywhere in the Caribbean, but I know some places were colonized by different countries in Europe and different places, so they sound to have a little bit different accents. Some, to me, a lot of people in the Caribbean sound closer and they retain more of their African accent. Obviously they're speaking English or Patois or whatever it is, whatever kind of language, French or whatever language it is. But to me, the accent, especially like Jamaicans, I love that they kept more of the African accent. And I'm not trying to ball all the Caribbeans up, because like I said, I know they sound different. I know a lot of black people in different parts of the Caribbean sound different. But from my experience, I would have to go with the Jamaican accent, in the Caribbeans is like, oh man, like makes me melt. Like, I mean, you don't even understand. You just don't even understand, you just don't. Unless you've been there and you talk to a girl or a guy, if you're a girl, you just won't even understand. And a lot of my homeboys, I got a lot of Rastafarians and stuff like that from Jamaica, and they're mad cool, and I just love the accent, whether it be guy or girl, it's a nice accent, and it's something that I feel like everybody in the world is very pleased to hear when somebody from Jamaica talks. So on to the next one. The next accent that I like a lot is the Afro-British accent. Black people from Great Britain, when they talk, I don't know, something about that British accent when black people talk, as much as, I don't like the history of even why they are having that accent, same as I have the accent that I have, it still is something that's very attractive about that. I don't really know what it is, but for some reason, I really find that when black British girls or Afro-British girls talk, I really find that very attracting. And when the guys talk, I find that just very they still have that blackness and that the Africanness to them, but it's just in a different language, if that makes any sense. Same as like African Americans, I feel, but maybe it's because they're speaking English, even though some of the English is different from American English, but it's British English, but something about it is like very similar to what I'm sort of kind of used to, I guess I could say. And another accent that I love, the neighbors right up north, is the Afro-Canadian, when like Canadian in general, but black women in Canada, because it's funny, Canada, and yeah, Canada, my words all messed up today, right? It's been a long day, but I love that accent because when I go up there, it's so funny. When you think it comes from America, there's a lot of I don't know, just bad stuff running around and like ignorance and just like a lot of people just not really caring about other people. I'm not saying that there's not good people in America, but there's other people that's not caring about good people. So you sort of get used to people being like pushy and rude, depending on what part of the country you come from. Maybe not more so the South, but up north you sort of get used to that. So then when you go even further north to a different country and you have these same Afro-Canadian girls that might look like somebody that you might stereotypically think that has attitude, as far as an African-American woman in America, and then they don't, that's a really weird thing to me, you know what I'm saying? It's a really weird thing to me, and it was really surprising. The first time I went to Canada, about close to 10 years ago, it was like something that, it's sad that you think that you won't stereotype your own people, but then when you have a stereotype in your head, even about your own people, sometimes you're not even trying to do it, but you just automatically do it because you're so used to it, or not automatically do it, but you sort of don't give them a chance to prove themselves because you're just so used to that happening, to where 9 times out of 10, what you thought was right, that you just go there and you don't give them a chance. So I really love the Afro-Canadian women and how they talk, especially the Somali girls and the Afro-Canadian girls and the Caribbean girls that are up there. There's a lot of Caribbean people, especially in Toronto. And so I really love that that it's almost like a question mark. I don't know, it reminds me of Somali, and I could be wrong about this. People always say I'm wrong about this. Well, not always, but some people say I'm wrong about this, but, or what they think. I don't know if it's really wrong or not, but for me, I feel like it always seems like it's a question being asked, and that's why I like it's like, you know, did you eat today? You know, like almost like that. And that reminds me of like Somali language, and I'm not saying that that's true. I'm just saying that from my ears, you know, listening to Somali and then listening to people in Canada talk, not even Somali people, I'm talking about African Canadians, just the way it's like, you know, different languages have different tones, and some languages don't have as many ups and downs in their tones. So just my perspective, don't kill me, don't chop my head off. I'm just saying this is my perception of it and how, what I hear, what I think, could be wrong. And then, you know, my other accents is that, you know, I haven't really talked to too many people of African descent that live like in India or like in Asia. I mean, like grew up there and learned English and had an accent. But I have talked to a couple of them from like Germany and where else? In France. And to me, I still feel like the best, you know, if I had to pick from Europe, I still feel like the Afro-British, you know, like the Afro-British people, like the way they talk and the way they carry themselves, you know, like just like how African Americans do. To me, it's you know, it's a little different, obviously, because it's not exactly the same. You know, even the language is the same, but the way it's spoken is different from certain things. And you know, washrooms compared to bathrooms and all kind of other slang that maybe we don't use in America or whatever for African Americans. But I think that the Afro-British people, when they talk, I like the way that they're like assertive and, you know, like they sound kind and, you know, like heartfelt and things like that. So I think for Europe, I think the Afro-British wins for me. I'm not going to continent to continent. I'm just going, you know, just off top of my head right now, just going everywhere. So obviously in Africa, you know, I really, really love the West African accent. You know, obviously there's a lot of different ones, and North African as well. There's a lot of different ones, and you know, but I really like the West African accent, especially like around the, you know, Senegalese area, Mali area, and like Nigeria area, all around there, and like all the way down to like maybe like Central Africa. I love East Africa too, and South and North, and that's the hard part about it, because I love everywhere in Africa accent. So to me, it's like hard to pick, but you know, I think out of West Africa, South Africa, I love South African accent too, depending on what country and what people you talk to. There's a lot of different ones, but I love them all. And I love East African too. I love East African accent. Man, I think I love East African accent the most from what I heard. Yeah, I would have to say I would have to go with East Africa. I love the East African accent, man, especially like a Ethiopian, whichever ethnic group you belong to, or like a Somalian or Kenyan. I mean, something about like having like, you know, Cushitic languages and like the way it's spoken with like, you know, I feel like to me, it's like a lot of like a lot of tongue, you know, like English, I feel like doesn't use a lot of tongue. Could be wrong about that, but from what I hear, like I love that like tongue and like that, you know, very like, I don't know, to me it's like a ancient speech, you know, desert, forest, just beautiful kingdoms and ancient type, you know, just roll off the tongue is what I love about East Africa and a lot of their languages. And not that East African languages are the only ones that sound like that. There's West African languages that sound like it, and the same family group in South and North. But yeah, I would have to say from what I know and most I've met, I would probably say that the East Africa, all of East Africa, not just talking about the Horn, but I'm talking about all the way down to Rwanda and everywhere else. I think that would be my favorite accent. So to wrap the video up, from what I concluded, and this is something quick that somebody asked me online, I just thought I would just make a video about it, and I'm sort of rambling on about it now, but I would think out of all the accents, as far as man, as far as a guy, I would say if I wanted my homeboy, I would say, man, it's hard. It's in between like, man, Midwest and East Coast, and then a Jamaican guy, you know what I'm saying? But I would say as far as a guy, as my homeboy, somebody I would talk to every day and kick it with, and somebody's accent that I would like to hear every day, man, yo, I love my African Americans in America, but I think I have to go with a Rasta man and a Jamaican cat, you know what I'm saying? I think that would be dope, and we just kick it every day or whatever, you know, he would be my friend. For a woman, somebody that I was dating, man, it's very hard because I do love, like I said, I do love the African American, you know, vernacular, right? Or the way we speak, you know what I'm saying? I like the way we speak in just a lot of things, but I feel like obviously, you know, I'm just used to it. Just like everybody's used to every accent. When somebody hear me from around the world, they might be like, oh my God, I love his accent, because I'm African American from up north on the northern part of America. But then there's some people that might look at me and be like, well, I'm used to that accent. I mean, you're probably still a nice person, but I'm used to that accent. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm singling this out. And when I pick, I'm just picking because it's so hard to pick. I really don't even like to pick amongst my people, because we're all equal, we're all good. But somebody asked me this question and I'm just going to answer it. So I think as far as a woman, man, that's hard to me. It's between the Caribbeans, you know, and when I say Caribbeans, I would just say like Caribbeans and Central South America and Central and South America and the Caribbeans. But man, because I love Afro-Brazilian girls too. Let's just keep it in the Caribbeans. We'll get back to the South and Central another day. I would say what I had most contact with and what I would love the most between Jamaican and like an East African girl. Whew. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. I would say, man, that's a hard one. That's a hard one. I would say, drum roll, right? Can't make it in my mouth. I would say, I would have to go, man, it's a hard one. I would have to go with the East African girl. I'm sorry. It's just that ancient tongue is just like, man, it's so hard to get away from. That's just so hard to get away from. Like, you know, if it was up to me, I wouldn't even have my girls speak English. I would just have them speak whatever, Amharic or Somali or, you know, whatever Kushite language, you know, Kenya, Rwanda or Burundi or whatever. I would, and those are not all Kushitic languages. I'm just saying I just use the ones at first. So don't cut my head off, right? But I think that tongue and the roll off the tongue and just the language is just very attractive to me. I'll tell you that, very, very attractive. So once again, this is just a vlog, because a question being answered because someone asked me this and messaged me and kept begging me to answer it, and I'm glad that they did, but I just haven't had time. But I'm so glad for the interaction. As always, subscribe, like, and we're all equal as a people. I'm not trying to, you know, single anybody out. I'm just saying what I like, because somebody asked a question and I didn't want to go here with it, but they just kept asking me. So I said, yo, I'll do it for you. And I might do more of these if you guys have questions just about our people in general. So as always, yo, I'm out. The Rasta man won, yo, the East African girl won as my friend, and the East African girl won as my girl if I had a girl, right? So, yeah, that's all. And
what's up, what's up?
Hey!
Shalom.
What up?
Hi.
African!